Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to go through what I read in the month of March. So I read 5 books in March. One I started in February and finished at the very beginning of March, but that counts as a March read to me. So it's kind of a mixed reading month. I would say I had no awful reads, but no 5-star reads either. I think pretty much every book I read was between a 3 and a 4 stars. So not awful, I'm happy with that. Obviously I would love some 5 stars in there, but a 4-star is still a very, very good book for me. So yeah, I'm quite happy with my reading month. So the first book I read in March was A Picture of Murder by T.E. Kinsey. This is the 4th book in the Lady Hardcastle series. I actually started reading this at the end of February and then finished it in March. But yeah, I have been slowly making my way through the Lady Hardcastle mysteries and I just love them. This was a good 4-star read for me. If you haven't heard of the Lady Hardcastle series, I would really recommend it. It's a real cosy mystery set in a little village. It follows Lady Hardcastle and her maid Flo, but they don't have your typical lady maid kind of relationship. They're very much best of friends. They have been on these wild and wacky adventures across the world. They have been spies, they have been taken down prolific killers, they have done it all. But now they are settled down in this little village and they're just trying to live their best life, but murder keeps on happening and they are constantly called on to help solve these murders. I really liked this one. It wasn't my favourite of the series, but again, they're always just like a solid 4-star read for me. So this one is set in the 1900s, I think 1910, around Halloween time, which would have been a better time to read it, but I didn't know that going in. It follows kind of a moving picture travelling group who kind of put on these moving picture shows for the villagers, and then murder ensues, and as always Flo and Lady Hardcastle are called on to help solve these murders. I don't want to give too much away because obviously it is a mystery, but these are just really fun, light, cosy mysteries, and like I say, it's never too serious. The characters don't take themselves too seriously. They're very funny, the characters just get on so well and they just keep coming out with these really good one-liners, which always helps the enjoyment of a book. But yeah, I just love a book that doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's just kind of like taking the mick of the kind of genre as a whole, but in a really fun way. So my next read was another Kindle book and another 4 stars. It was Checkmate by Ali Hazelwood. I was a bit nervous going into this book because it's her first kind of toe dip into the YA world. All of her other books that I've read and loved have been adult romances, so I was a bit nervous that a YA romance would kind of be a bit too cringy and a bit kind of not my thing, but I was very pleasantly surprised. The characters are like around the 18-year-old mark, I'm pretty sure, so they're not necessarily what I would class as like super young adult. I was expecting them to be like 14, 15, 16, so I think that definitely helped. I would say the scenes didn't read as YA, like they felt very similar to her adult novels, although obviously they weren't as explicit. There were still some kind of like mentions of sex and things like that, but they weren't as explicit as her adult novels. But otherwise they kind of read very similarly, which I really enjoyed because I love her adult novels. We're following like 2 characters. They are obviously falling in love and there's an element of chess involved, which I really like actually. It's not a game I know much about, I don't really know how to play very well, so I again was a bit nervous that if that's kind of too intense I wouldn't get it. But actually, although it plays a huge role and Ali Hazelwood does kind of write about the games, it's still exciting and fun to read, which is quite an achievement, I think, like making chess fun for someone who doesn't play chess. It was a very good achievement from her, I would say. But yeah, this was a really fun read, and yeah, just another good Ali Hazelwood book. I don't know if she can do any wrong in my eyes. She has got Bride out, which is her kind of adult paranormal romance, which I'm even more nervous to go into, but I was nervous going to the YA and I loved it, so maybe I'll have to give it a go anyway. We'll see about that one. The next book I had to read for the prompt of the oldest book on my TBR in the March TBR game was The White Queen by Philippa Gregory. Again, as I keep saying, this book has been on my TBR for probably around 10 years. And I've just never picked it up, but I finally read it this month, which is great. This is obviously by Philippa Gregory. It's part of her kind of Tudor series. I think it's called like the Cousins' War or something series. We follow Elizabeth Woodville, who I believe is Henry VIII's grandmother. Kind of follows her as she marries Edward IV of York. There's like elements of the War of the Roses is going on. She's the mother of the princes in the Tower. There's kind of a lot of key historical events that are covered in this book. And I did really enjoy it. It was a 3-star for me. I do love a historical fiction. I was quite nervous again going into this one because it's been on my TBR for so long, and even though I know I really do enjoy Philippa Gregory's work, I haven't read them in these kind of books in a long time. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with this one. There is obviously a lot of like war scenes. It's very repetitive and like they go into hiding, there's a war, they come out, there's another war. But like that is history, so it's kind of, you can't really change that. Of course, I don't know how historically accurate it is. Even in the acknowledgement, she has said that she's kind of altered a little bit of history and kind of obviously adjusted it to make it more exciting for a reader. But you know, I still enjoyed it for what it was. There was a kind of fantastical element, very like loosely sprinkled in, where like it alludes to Elizabeth and her mother being witches and kind of having control of the waters, so like the Thames and things like that. And I really enjoyed that element, which I didn't expect to. So yes, definitely a win and glad to have got it off my TBR. However, I do still have the next in the series on my TBR. We'll see when I get to that one. So moving swiftly on to my next read, very different from my historical. I read Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher, which is the second in the Dreamland Billionaires series. This series is fine, like it's never an amazing read, but they're just super easy to read and fun, and I just need that. This one was not just fake dating, it was fake marriage, so we really ramped it up a notch, but I did quite enjoy it. It was fine. It was an enjoyable read. They are always just fun, easy to read books. I would say there's one thing I've noticed about Lauren Asher's writing, and tell me if this carries on, if anyone else has noticed it too, but the one irk I have with her writing style is the characters, when they laugh, they don't just laugh, they are cackling, they are crying with laughter, they are hysterical. And it's like the other character will say something that's like not even that funny, and it just feels so out of character for this like grumpy man who's like really pissed off to suddenly be cry laughing. Like, I don't know, it really like takes me out of the story whenever the character laughs. It's like such a specific thing to find annoying, but I just really noticed it. But tell me if it's just me. But next time you read Lauren Asher, let me know if you also notice it as well. But yeah, I would definitely carry on with the series. I think the next one follows Cal. Is his name Cal? I'm awful at remembering names. Who we saw a little bit more of in this novel in Terms and Conditions. He's kind of like the best friend of the main character, so the female main character. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to that one and finishing the series. Like I say, they're on Kindle Unlimited and they're just fun, easy reads. And then my final book that I read in March was 50/50 by Steve Kavanagh. This is the 4th book, maybe the 5th book in the Eddie Flynn series. I really would recommend this series if you are into kind of mystery thrillers. This follows Eddie Flynn, who's a lawyer, but he was previously a con man, so he kind of uses them skills in his job. And there's obviously always some drama going on with gangs and his past life. One thing Steve Kavanagh does really well, and the kind of reason I keep going back to these books, are his courtroom scenes. They're just so clever and so interesting to read. I think he was also a lawyer previously before he became a writer, which probably helps. But yeah, Eddie Flynn is just such a smart, clever character, and like the links he makes, amazing. So 50/50 in particular is about two sisters who are both on trial for the murder of their father. It starts with a 911 phone call, two 911 phone calls, and it's both sisters are phoning 911 at the same time, reporting the murder of their father and blaming the sister. So yeah, this was really interesting because you don't know who's done it throughout until like the very end, and usually when the lawyer is representing a character you kind of know that they didn't do it, but in this one I really was so doubtful. There's also chapters, there's chapters from Eddie's character, Eddie's point of view, but then there's also chapters from the point of view of she, so the murderer, but we don't, the way it's written, it's really hard to explain, but the way it's written is you don't know who it is, you know it's one of the sisters, but the way he writes it is that it's very anonymous, and this sister is going out maybe committing more crimes and stirring more drama up, but it's so vague that you can't pinpoint it to a particular sister. There'll be one chapter where you're like, oh, she has gone out for a run, and in the previous chapter Eddie's talking about how one of the sisters has gone for a run, so you're like, oh, so it must be them. And then the next chapter the other sister does something which is then referred to in the she chapter, so you can never work out where it's going, which I really liked that element of it. I will say the last kind of third I didn't love as much, kind of the ending lost it a little bit for me. It wasn't quite as satisfying of an ending as I'd hoped, but yeah, it was still good and I would definitely finish the series. I love his writing and I will always recommend the series to anyone. So those were the 5 books I read this month. I only have 2 physical books to show you, and the rest were on my Kindle. But like I say, a pretty solid reading month, I would say. I think most of the books were 3 and 4 stars, so I can't complain there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!